So, Trudy, why is it important for the GP to take a good sleep history?
Well, first of all, most CFS patients that I've seen have had a disturbed sleep pattern because they get into sleeping during the day when they're tired. And then, of course, if you sleep during the day, then it steals the sleep from the night time.
Oh.
And even though people feel extremely tired, they can't necessarily sleep more as a consequence of that tiredness.
Right.
And so what happens is that they have a very disrupted sleep pattern, just sleeping for a short period of time and then waking up. So they don't have the average 8 hours solid sleep at night time, which appears, for whatever reason, to be very good for us.
Right, right. So it does seem then that if you sleep for the same number of hours at the same time each 24 hours, that has a beneficial effect on the syndrome itself.
Yes, it does. In fact, it has quite a dramatic effect on people's symptoms, and they quickly start to feel less tired.
Right, right.
You know, for example, I saw a young man in my clinic a couple of weeks ago, and he was sleeping most of the morning and then staying up most of the night.
Right.
Because he said that's when he got his creative energy. And I'm sure that's true to some extent, but we just reorganised his sleep so that, in fact, he was more creative in the afternoon rather than the evening or into the night.
Ah, so his creativity just shifted.
Hello, Mick. Nice to see you again.
Hi.
How have you been feeling since we last met?
I'm still feeling tired all the time.
Right.
It's interfering with my studying.
Right.
I'm finding it difficult to concentrate because I'm just feeling tired all the time, just
Right.
as if I can't seem to get any energy.
Okay. I asked you to keep a diary over the last 2 weeks.
That long.
Lovely. Just looking at this, it is obvious that you have got a very, very erratic sleeping time. Here you went to bed at 9, here you went to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're also sleeping in a number of mornings a week, aren't you?
Yeah.
I noticed that the late times are when you've been working in the pub.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you find that you're drinking maybe a lot more than you used to? Maybe using it to try and get off to sleep those nights?
Well, I mean, that thought had occurred to me.
Right.
That, maybe if I had a few drinks before I went back home,
Right.
that would help me to sleep a bit better.
Okay. I think what I'd like to do is to look at ways of altering this sleep pattern. Me and you together now look at ways that we can actually alter it to maybe get you to go to bed at the same time each night and to wake up at the same time each morning. Now, I want this to be realistic. What sort of time do you think you can actually go to bed at night?
Well, I mean, I normally get home, if I'm working in the pub, about 12 o'clock.
Right.
But one of the things that makes it difficult is that sometimes I have coursework to get in,
Right.
essays to write, and sometimes I stay up a bit longer
Fine.
and try and get some of that done. But imagine like 1 or 12 or 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Would be reasonable.
Now, as I said, there's an awful lot on this, and you are doing an awful lot in the average day. I mean, you're studying, you're working in the pub, you're having to do all this coursework. But I think if we can tackle the sleep so that you actually get your 8 hours sleep in every night, you will feel less tired, and you'll therefore have more mental energy left to do some of the studying. So I think we can make then 12 to 12:30 is a realistic time that you can go off to bed at night.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
as realistic as you
Your lectures start at 9:30 in the morning, so what would be a realistic time for you to get up in the morning?
Well, I'd need to be up, I imagine, about 8 or 8:30.
Okay, well let's say 8 o'clock then, and you've got an alarm clock at home, have you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's look then at you going to bed between 12 and 12:30 and waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, you're going to feel lousy. You're going to feel absolutely lousy at the beginning because you're not getting your lie in.
Yeah, well, I feel lousy now, so I suppose it won't make that much difference.
Okay. Some people think it's very boring to sort of have set routines, and yes, I think a lot of people get their creative energy from working with the adrenaline rush, as probably you do sometimes, but I think in your case it's gone a little bit over the top, hasn't it? That's why, in a sense, you've come to see me feeling tired all the time.
Right.
Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I am doing quite a lot, trying to get through the MSc and do all
Right.
the studying on top of that, and working as well to get
Okay.
by.
The other thing is the alcohol. What sort of, I mean, you're obviously drinking erratically throughout the week. I just wonder, again, whether if we said let's limit the alcohol to 2 pints or 2 pints equivalent per night, whether that again would be something you would be able to do.
Well, that's okay, but if I go out socialising,
Right.
I go to a club or I go to a pub with friends, I'll probably feel a bit strange just having 2 pints when everybody else is carrying on drinking.
That's very
That's
true, and
what we
it might be that you're going to the clubs at the weekend, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let's say that maybe during the week, if you could limit your alcohol intake to 2 pints at night, and at the weekends, well, we'll look at the weekends at a later stage. But I think if it's not affecting your work at the weekends, then that's fine. But equally,
Right.
a lot of alcohol acts as a stimulant. So the more alcohol you take, the more stimulated you'll be, and the more you'll find it difficult to get off to sleep at the normal times.
Okay.
Do you think you'll be able to do that for the time?
Well, I'll give it a go.
Lovely. So we'll meet again.
Is there a difference then between people who are tired all the time and people with chronic fatigue syndrome in terms of their sleep patterns?
Yes, I mean, obviously this is a generalisation, because some people with chronic fatigue syndrome sleep too much, they have hypersomnia, but equally it's true that they have insomnia or disrupted sleep pattern because of what we've just been discussing. You know, that they're sleeping during the day rather than at night time. But people with tired all the time syndrome, whatever you like to call it, often are not sleeping enough because they're trying to juggle too many things all at the same time. And so they probably need slightly more rest during the day, and maybe a few more hours in bed than they're presently getting.
Right, so the advice would be quite different in their situation. Right, yes.
And in addition, sometimes people with chronic fatigue syndrome oscillate from one extreme to the other. From either getting too much sleep or not enough. And what they need is a consistent pattern of sleep.
Right.
Here's a final opportunity for discussion. When the stop caption appears, discuss how a GP should manage these patients over the long term. What advice should you give about the diary?
So, Trudy, what's the rationale for this activity scheduling?
Well, it's really important that the patient keeps a detailed diary of their activities and their rest throughout the day, so that you can then reorder all of the activities so that they become more consistent. So it's important that you ask the patient to break up their activities into small chunks, evenly spread throughout the day, so that the patient is then breaking the association between the symptoms that they're experiencing and the activity. And the factors which keep the problem going are usually people reducing their activity because they're fearful that if they carry on with their activity, then it will make...
I'd like to review the diary that you've kept. I'd like to talk about treatment, and I'd like also again to talk about developing a consistent approach to activity, which is something we touched on last week. What do you remember about what we talked about that? What do you remember about that?
I remember you saying that I needed to gradually build up my activity bit by bit.
Yes. I think we talked about how important it was that activity was consistent throughout the week, rather than in bursts of immense activity followed by nothing. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Can I have a little look at your diary? And just talk me through it.
Okay, well, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday were fairly typical. I went to work, and when I came home I just did nothing, I just rested. And, Thursday I tried to do a bit more after work, so I was quite busy first part of the evening and then just felt worse and worse. And I was so exhausted on Friday, I just had to take the day off and spent it in bed recovering. Felt a bit better on Saturday, and that was a fairly normal weekend day where I was fairly sedentary, I suppose, watching a lot of telly, reading the paper. Sunday I thought, well, I've got to try and build up my activity and do more, so I went out on a big walk, which probably wasn't a very good idea, I think. It was a few hours. I did lots of rest along the way. I was walking very slowly, but I think and I really regretted it by the evening.
So if I just recap, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were fairly normal days. Thursday you did some activity, and this was followed by you feeling exhausted Friday and Saturday, so that you had to take to your bed on Friday. And Sunday you did this enormous burst again of activity. I think what your diary shows is again how important it is that we develop a consistent approach.
Yeah.
Because what we talked about was that it's important that we break this association between activity and your symptoms.
Yes,
And
I can see what I'm doing.
Yes, because
it's hard to know how to change
you've got activity
it.
on Thursday followed by symptoms, activity on Sunday followed by how are you feeling now?
Dreadful.
Right.
I feel knackered.
Okay.